possible that they might have acted had not the Munich conference been arranged. The information necessary to establish how well the plot was hatched, how ready the armed forces were to march, and how near Halder and Witzleben really came to giving the order to act has so far been lacking. We have only the statements of a handful of participants who, after the war, were anxious to prove their opposition to National Socialism. And what they have said and written in self-defense is often conflicting and confusing. For example, the explanation for the failure of the revolt given by General Georg Thomas, the brilliant chief of the economic and armaments branch of OKW and one of the conspirators. The execution of this enterprise was unfortunately frustrated because, according to the view of the commanding general appointed for the task, Witzleben, the younger officers were found to be unreliable for a political action of this kind. See his paper, Gedanken und Ereignisse, published in the December 1945 number of the Schweizerische Monatshefte. If, as the conspirators claim, their plans were on the point of being carried out, the announcement of Chamberlain's trip to Munich certainly cut the ground from underneath their feet. The generals could scarcely have arrested Hitler and tried him as a war criminal when it was obvious that he was about to achieve an important conquest without war. What is certain among all these uncertainties, and here Dr. Schacht must be conceded his point, is that such a golden opportunity never again presented itself to the German opposition to dispose of Hitler, bring a swift end to the Third Reich, and save Germany and the world from war. The Germans, if one may risk a generalization, have a weakness for blaming foreigners for their failures. The responsibility of Chamberlain and Halifax, of Daladier and Bonnet for Munich, and thus for all the disastrous consequences which ensued, is overwhelming. But they may be pardoned to some extent for not taking very seriously the warnings of a revolt of a group of German generals and civilians, most of whom had served Hitler with great ability up to this moment. They, or at least some of their advisors in London and Paris, may have recalled the bleak facts of recent German history, that the army had helped put the former Austrian corporal into power, had been delighted at the opportunities he gave it to rearm, but apparently not objected to the destruction of individual freedom under National Socialism, or done anything about the murder of its own General von Schleicher, or the removal on a dastardly frame-up of its commanding officer, General von Fritsch, and, recently, had gone along with the rape of Austria, indeed had supplied the military force to carry it out. Whatever blame may be heaped on the arch-appeasers in London and Paris, and great it undoubtedly is, the fact remains that the German generals themselves and their civilian co-conspirators failed at an opportune moment to act on their own. The surrender at Munich, September 29th to 30th, 1938. In this Baroque Bavarian city, where in the murky back rooms of run-down little cafes he had made his lowly start as a politician, and in whose streets he had suffered the fiasco of the beer hall putsch, Adolf Hitler greeted like a conqueror the heads of governments of Great Britain, France, and Italy at noon on September 29th. Very early that morning, he had gone to Kufstein on the former Austro-German frontier to meet Mussolini and set up a basis for common action at the conference. In the train coming up to Munich, Hitler was in a bellicose mood, explaining to the Duce over maps how he intended to liquidate Czechoslovakia. Either the talks beginning that day must be immediately successful, he said, or he would resort to arms. Besides, Chano, who was present, quotes the Führer as adding, "The time will come when we shall have to fight side by side against France and England." Mussolini agreed. Chamberlain made no similar effort to see Daladier beforehand to work out a joint strategy for the two Western democracies with which to confront the two fascist dictators. Indeed, it became evident to many of us in contact with the British and French delegations in Munich as the day progressed that Chamberlain had come to Munich absolutely determined that no one, certainly not the Czechs and not even the French, should stand in the way of his reaching a quick agreement with Hitler. At 6:45 the evening before, Chamberlain had sent a message to President Benesch informing him officially of the meeting at Munich. "I shall have the interests of Czechoslovakia," he stated, "fully in mind. I go there, to Munich, with the intention of trying to find accommodation between the positions of the German and Czechoslovak governments." Benešid immediately replied, "I beg that nothing may be done at Munich without Czechoslovakia being heard." In the case of Daladier, who went around all day as if in a daze, no precaution was necessary, but the determined Prime Minister took no risks. The talks, which began at 12:45 p.m. in the so-called Führerhaus in the Königsplatz, were anticlimactic and constituted little more than a mere formality of rendering to Hitler exactly what he wanted when he wanted it. Dr. Schmidt, the indomitable interpreter, who was called upon to function in 3 languages, German, French, and English, noticed from the beginning an atmosphere of general goodwill. Ambassador Henderson later remembered that at no stage of the conversations did they become heated. No one presided. The proceedings unfolded informally, and judging by the German minutes of the meeting, which came to light after the war, the British Prime Minister and the French Premier fairly fell over themselves to agree with Hitler, even when he made the following opening statement. He had now declared in his speech at the Sportpalast that he would in any case march in on October 1st. He received the answer that this action would have the character of an act of violence. Hence, the task arose to absolve this action from such a character. Action must, however, be taken at once. The conferees got down to business when Mussolini, speaking third in turn, Daladier was left at last, said that in order to bring about a practical solution of the problem, he brought with him a definite written proposal. Its origins are interesting and remained unknown to Chamberlain, I believe, to his death. In the memoirs of Francois Poncet and Henderson, it is obvious that they too were ignorant of it. In fact, the story only became known long after the violent deaths of the 2 dictators. What the Duce now fobbed off as his own compromise plan had been hastily drafted the day before in the German Foreign Office in Berlin by Goering, Neurath, and Weizsäcker, behind the back of Foreign Minister von Ribbentrop, whose judgment the 3 men did not trust. Goering took it to Hitler, who said it might do, and then it was hurriedly translated into French by Dr. Schmidt, and passed along to the Italian ambassador, Attolico, who telephoned the text of it to the Italian dictator in Rome just before he entrained for Munich. Thus it was that the Italian proposals, which provided the informal conference not only with its sole agenda, but with the basic terms which eventually became the Munich Agreement, were in fact German proposals concocted in Berlin. Erich Kort recounted the German origins of Mussolini's proposals in his testimony before U.S. Military Tribunal 4 at Nuremberg on June 4, 1948, in the case of USA versus Ernst Weizsäcker. Documents on German Foreign Policy, Volume 2, page 1005, gives a summary from the official trial transcript. Kort also tells the story in his book, Wahn und Wirklichkeit, pages 129 to 131. Dr. Schmidt, Hitler's interpreter, page 111, substantiates Kort's account and remarks that translating the Duce's proposals was easy because he had already translated them the day before in Berlin. Giano, the Italian foreign minister, in a diary entry of September 29th to 30th from Munich, tells of Mussolini producing his document, which in fact had been telephoned to us by our embassy the previous evening, as expressing the desires of the German government. Giano's Hidden Diary, 1937.
Hey guys, it's that time of day once again. It's day 45 of our devlog. Now, what I'm going to do first of all, because I'm a little not out of ideas on what to do, there's plenty to do, but you get kind of bogged down in what to do next. So, off the top of my head, I thought, well, we did some stuff last night, which was basically setting our fire to require resources and then adding that to our interact widget. And then what I said was, let's add a different type of message later, and kind of brushed it off, right? Now, why don't we just do that and get it done, get it out of the way, and everything's good? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with doing this little comment box where we're setting the tool mesh. I set some of the jobs back up last night with the correct mesh type, which I was informed about. So let's just tidy this up a little bit and then get on with our message. Okay, save all. Right. So let's move forward, shall we? And just a little thank you guys to all the people out there who subscribed yesterday, and first and foremost, but also to my regular viewers, because probably without you guys in the stream regularly, my stream wouldn't pop up on any, you know, it wouldn't get recommended, right? If you've got no viewers, then people think it's worthless. Understandable. So it's you guys too I want to thank, right? The regulars, Storm Run, La Casa del Gaming, Aladius, you know who you are. So thank you guys as well for sticking around and popping in. I really do appreciate it. So let's get on. So next thing, and as a final point, let's get to 800 soon. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our interact widget, which is the heart and soul of this, right? And it's a little lonely little widget sitting in its own directory, and I hate when that happens. It's this little widget here. Okay. And basically it's this part here. Okay, so this is when we don't have the requirements. Okay, so what we're going to do is, it's not yet a variable, so it's not going to show up in our variable list, so we need to set it. Okay, so this text here, text no actions, we're going to save that. Okay, and back to our graph. We're looking for our text no actions. So txt, where is it? Let's have a look at that again. Text no, I didn't set it to as variable. So we set it to variable so that we can interact with it. Txt no actions, so we get that. Then we set text. And we can basically say needs resource. Okay, widget switcher will do the rest. Job's a good one. Well, not really, but iteration 2 is a good one, because now we want to know probably, oh, let's just do this, shall we? We need to know what it needs, okay? So
Britain and France declared that they stand by their offer relating to an international guarantee of the new boundaries of the Czechoslovak state against unprovoked
we need to
threats.
do something with this,
The question of the
basically.
Polish and Hungarian minorities has been settled. Germany and Italy, for their part, will give a
We need to create another function that returns the things that we need.
plebiscite was never carried out.
Okay?
Neither Germany nor Italy ever gave the guarantee to Czechoslovakia against aggression, even after the matter of the Polish and
Which is
Hungarian
fine. Right, let's just do it.
And as we shall see, Britain and France declined to honor their guarantee.
Right, so
There remains the
we'll call it item names
victims of informing the Czechs
required.
what they had to give up and how soon.
Okay?
Hitler and Mussolini
And
were not interested in this part of the
we're
settle-
going to
tasked representatives of Czechoslovakia's ally, France.
go in here.
The scene was vividly described by Masaryk in his official report to the Czech Foreign Office.
Right, and we're going to need a local variable.
The hall where the conference had been held.
Okay?
There were present Mr. Chamberlain, Monsieur Deladier,
We're going to call it items
Monsieur Léger, Secretary General
required,
of the Foreign Office, Mr. Ashton Watkin, Dr. Masaryk.
and it's going to be a string.
Sentence was about to be passed. The French,
Okay.
obviously nervous, seemed anxious to preserve.
We're going to click in there again.
Mr. Chamberlain, in a
We are going to have an input, and we're definitely going to have an output, and our output is going to be str for string
Mr. Chamberlain was yawning
items
without making any effort to conceal it.
item
I asked
names.
Messieurs Deladier and Léger whether they expected a declaration or answer of our government.
Okay,
Monsieur
we'll
Deladier
put that there,
was visibly nervous. Monsieur Léger
and that's going to be a string.
had not much time. He added hurriedly,
And now we're going to need our other function
our government had that very day at the latest in Vienna.
has resources.
Representative to Berlin to the sitting of the commission.
Well, let's go back to our event graph,
Officer who was to be sent would have to be in Berlin on
and we're looking at has required items, right?
evacuation of the first zone. The atmosphere,
And we want to know what this is.
the whole world.
Item number.
He spoke to us harshly.
Okay,
This was a French man.
it's just a name.
Chamberlain did not conceal his weariness.
Now we could actually do this as
Finished with us and think well.
yeah. Okay,
I remember from that famous
what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this,
down the broad steps of the Führer house after the meeting. Cockiness and
and we'll call this return
the yawns of Chamberlain
item
pleasant sleepiness as he returned.
return required
Deladier,
item
diary that
names.
on the other hand, completely beaten and
Okay,
he came over to the
now this is going to be slightly different.
someone asked,
We're going to return these, but this one
satisfied with the agreement,
we're going to call it string
as if to say something,
item
tired and the words didn't
names, right? And it's going to be a string, and we're going to spell it right in a minute,
Chamberlain was not through conferring with Hitler about the peace of the world.
right?
Early the next morning, September 30th, refreshed by a few hours of sleep,
So that's good.
he sought out the
We don't care if it's in our inventory, okay?
to secure a small concession which he apparently,
In fact, we may not even need to return the pawn.
according to Dr. Schmidt, who acted as interpreter, who was the sole witness,
May not even need the pawn for this, so I'm going to remove it because we don't need the inventory at all. All we need to know is what items make up
adopted generous attitude in the implementation of the Munich.
this thing here, okay?
Renewed his hope that the Czechs would not be
So we'll work on that in a minute.
that if they did make them, Hitler would not bomb Prague with the dreadful losses among the civilian population.
Right, so we're getting item type and quantity.
This was only the beginning of a long and rambling discourse which was
So what we're going to do here,
even one
in here,
abject to surrender to the German dictator the night before, had it not been reported by Dr. Schmidt in an official Foreign Office memo.
is we don't care about this item count, that can basically go,
Seems difficult,
right? But
but the British leader's opening remarks
we didn't want to do that. We want this right? And we say string item names. Let's call it string. Let's just call it string out. Right? It's going to be a string. We're going to duplicate, remove that, and we'll set that. And it's going to be an empty string to start with. Oopsie daisy. Right. So, next, we're going to come off here. I'm going to worry about this bit in a minute, right? We're going to break that. And we don't have the item type name. Well, that's a bit of a bummer. Okay. So it looks like we need the name of the item as well. We're not going to use the name, but well, we're going to use the name in this function, but we're not going to use it in any other function, right? Grabbing a sip of my coffee there. Right. So item type and quantity is a struct item type and quantity. So we basically need to change that. This thing here. Okay. And we actually do need the name. As I said, the type is what we're going to use to actually say if it's the right type of resource or not. And I believe it's a name. We'll change that later if we need to, but at the end of the day, we need to sort that out. So, if we go back, we need to save this, and I believe we probably need this. That's a bit naff, so we can't get it for here. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We're cool. We're cool with that because it's easier than we think. Okay. We need to open this again and delete it again and save all that, right? Thing is, if it's fuel, then we don't necessarily need wood. We need a fuel. So we need either wood, coal, whatever it is that we're going to say is question. Why did you use a game engine instead of doing it straight from C++? Because then you'd need to write your own game engine. C++ doesn't write a game engine for you. So all the 3D calculations, all of that stuff, you would have to write again yourself. So you'd basically be creating a game engine again. And I'm pretty sure that Epic, who've been doing it for over 2 decades, know a bit more about that than I do. I think it's fairly safe to say that.
What Chamberlain and Daladier at Munich had neglected to give Germany and Czechoslovakia, so-called international...
Right, but I mean the thing is here, right, that I can use C++ if I like as an add-on to what I'm doing here. I'm just using blueprints because basically I programmed for 25 years using various different languages like, you know, C#, Visual Basic, ASP, VB Script, SQL, blah blah blah. So I just thought I'd use blueprints just for a change, right? But I have used C++ within Unreal Engine, and I know how to do it. Right? So that's the answer. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. So, basically, well, you don't... ZTD Zun, I don't know how to pronounce what your handle is, right? Zittenzun, right? You don't need to start with C++, right? You've got, in the Unreal Engine, you've got blueprints, right? Which is what I'm using here. So, let me explain. This just is a visual programming tool, okay? Now, believe it or not, this is all C++. Right, but it's got a layer on top of it to make it visual. Okay, I could do all this in C++ if I wanted, right? All of these little pictures and nodes are available for me to do it in C++ within the Unreal Engine, right? But for very simple tasks, it's easy just to visualize what you're trying to do, right? So, for example, we've got a sequence here, which is basically do that, do that, do that, do that, and then do that, right? And then I can see that this is like a branch. Now, a branch in C++ or any normal language is an if-then. If A equals this, do that. If A equals that, do that. Okay? So this is just giving you a visual representation of a normal computer language. You know? Could be Java, could be C++, could be C#, could be Visual Basic, could be anything. Right? But this just adds a visual layer on the top, which makes it easier for non-programmers, like people that, designers and non-programming type people, right? But anyway, this just gives you a visual representation. Now, as I said, there's no difference between whether I actually write this in C++ or in blueprints. The only difference is that you lose a little bit of speed under certain circumstances, right? But Unreal Engine, Epic, you know, the makers, basically say use a combination of both. Use a combination of blueprints and C++. You know, if you've got very heavy calculations to do it in C++. If you've got very simple nodes like what I've got here, you know, you're not going to lose performance really by doing it in Blueprints. Now, back to your original thing where you said, I want to make a 2D game that has a scrolling menu and a few tabs I can click on. Right. Well, Unreal Engine isn't the best engine for you, okay, for that particular thing. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do a 2D game in Unreal Engine, but in Unreal Engine is basically made to push 3D graphics. So if I was going to focus on 2D games, I would probably use either Unity or Godot. Right? But if you have no programming experience, then there's no reason why you can't use Unreal Engine. And you can use the blueprints, right? Which might make more sense to you. Right? But what I would say is, you will need a certain amount of basic programming knowledge, right? You need to know what arrays are. You need to know what an if-then statement is. You need to know what a case statement is, even though you don't use it in blueprints. But you need to know the concepts, right? I mean, if you did it in Unity, you would need to use C#, right? So if you don't know C++, probably you don't know C#. So you're basically in the same boat, except with Unity, you've not got this robust blueprint system, right? And I think it's pretty much the same for Godot, even though I'm not 100% sure what Godot uses. It might be C# as well, I don't know, right? But it will use an underlying language. So well, as I said, you can use C++ in Unreal Engine, right? I can create C++ classes, right? As I said, all of this stuff here, you can do it in C++, right? I could redo this whole blueprint and just have it as a C++ function, okay? But it's easier. The reason you do this, right, is number one, it's easier to prototype things fast with blueprints, okay? You can get things working without any programming, just hooking up nodes, doing blah blah blah, and you can see things happening on the screen. Now, there's no reason why you don't write the whole thing in blueprints, get it all working 100%, and then convert it all to C++, right? Now, that would only make sense under certain circumstances, right? Like, for example, you were having performance issues, and even then, it's probably not the blueprints that's causing those particular performance issues, right? You would have to, track it down, find out what is the actual problem here. In a 2D game, probably blueprints are not going to cause an issue at all. So if you're coming at it with a, I don't know how to program anything or any language, then Unreal Engine, use blueprints. It's the way to go. Okay, so hopefully I've explained that well enough for you that you get the reason behind it. As I said, at a very, very basic level, Unreal Engine isn't as suited to 2D games as some of the other engines, right? But, okay, Zajin, thanks for the question, mate, and I hope you get the picture. So what we're about to do is we've got to test this. Oh no, we're not. I do a lot of stuff off stream, Zwiek. Right? It's kind of fits and starts, right? It depends. Like, for example, last night after my stream, I didn't do... Did I do anything? I did a little bit, not much. But sometimes... Right, here's the thing. I stream at 2 PM till 4 PM, right? And then I stream again at 8 PM to 10 PM. Now, when people come in to the stream and ask questions, obviously it might be not related to the game, right? They might be asking about, oh, how do you do this with a widget? How do I move this around? How do I do that? How do I do that, right? And I've got no problem, that's great, right? I love it. I love explaining to you guys how you do something if you're not sure and, you know, helping you learn, right? But then I'm not working on the game. So for those 2 hours, maybe I'll be working the 2 hours on the game, right? And then later on I might be working another 2 hours on the game. But that's maybe not going to happen. Like, for example, yesterday in the afternoon stream, I pretty much did nothing on the game, right? But in the morning, when I get up in that, I'm working on the game probably for 2 to 4 hours before I stream. And then when I finish the first stream, I might work another 2 hours in between, right? Just depends. And then after it, I might be talking to my colleague and we both might be working on the game at the same time at that point. Like, for example, 3 in the morning the other night, I was still working at it, you know? But the reason I like to do the streams twice a day, every day, is it guarantees some development of the game, right? So I'm always moving forward. There's always something getting added to the game, right? I'm not talking about features or anything. What I'm talking about is moving towards, the end goal of having a finished game, right? So if you were to do that too, and I would suggest that, right, you might not necessarily stream it, but if you say, I'm going to work, depends on your work schedule, of course, right, but let's say I'm going to work from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every single night, right, you can guarantee that you're going to make progress, okay? It's inevitable. You know, if you just get into the routine of doing it every single night, right, for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, right, and just get into a routine of doing it every night and you'll make progress, right? It's inevitable. It can't happen in any other way. So anyway, we are going back to here. So hopefully that answered your question, Zwiek. We are going back to our function here, right? And basically, we need... So, right, here's the thing. We're coming here, okay? And we're getting the item type, okay? And what we need to do is find all the item types in the table, interactive items. So what we're going to do is get data table row names. Right, we're going to have to check all of them. So we do that. And this is going to have to be interactable items. Okay. We're going to get this and we're going to loop for each. Now we can't do a break because we need to check every single one of them, right? Then we're going to get our array element and we're going to break it. Or no, we're not. We're going to get data table row, which is always at the bottom when you do this. It's proving me a liar. It's because I've not got a... Right, do that. And we're on the same table again, right? And we're saying data table row name, UK. So our next thing is we're going to break this. Oops, that's not what we want. I'm going to break that. Then we're going to get the item type. And we're going to say equals. Then we're going to hide everything else for the moment. We might need the name. We are going to need the name at some point, but we'll keep it compact for now. Right, so we'll drag these out. And basically, we're going to drag this out. And we're going to break that. And we're going to say, does that equal that? Now, we're not bothered about the quantity here, right? Because basically, we know that we've not got any or not enough, right? So we just want to tell the player what they need to start the fire, right? Now, as I said before, it could be coal, wood, paper, well, it's not going to be plastic, but you get the idea, right? It's going to be some type of fuel. So all we need to do is tell them all the different types of fuel so that they know which type of items they can use. Okay? So next we're going to branch. Right? And we're going to do string out. We're going to set it, right? But we're also going to do an append, right? And we're going to get this, and we're going to get item name. Okay, so we're going to do that, then we're going to do a comma at the end and a space. Okay, and then this is going to go in here. Okay, and that is if it's true. If it's false, we do nothing. Okay, straight connection to that. We are all good. And then at the end of this, we're going to have to do our string out. So we're going to have to do a tidy up job. on this at the end, okay? Now, we are going to do that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get our... We're going to rename this, right? We're going to say required items out. That'll do, right? In case we do another more functions in here, which we will be doing. So we're going to get that, right? Now we're going to check the length. Right? And if the length is greater than 0, we're going to do this, right? And if it's false, we're going to say no actions available. Okay? Now, if it's true, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to get this again. And we're going to chop, right chop. And we're going to right chop 2. And that's going to take off our last trailing comma and space. Okay? Right? Because basically what we're going to do is we're going to add a comma and a space, right, at the end. Now this might loop through 4 times, right? So whichever way you slice it, it's going to end up with a comma and a space at the end. Right? Now you could do it at the start, you could do it at the end, doesn't really matter. Point being that basically we're going to chop the trailing comma and space off to give us our final list, right? So we do that. And now we go back here. Oh, one more thing. Right? We click on this and it's pure, so that's fine. Right? That means it's not got an execution pin, that we can just pull it straight out. Right? And we need to know what it's called. It's called return required item names. So we say return required item names. As you can see, it's in BFL functions, right? That's going to go in there. It's going to convert it, which is fine. We'll move it along a little bit, right? And we'll do that. And we need this thing here, right? So what we're going to do is a read route node. We'll plug this in. Do that. Then straighten. And there we go. Okay. So if this works properly, when I walk up to this fire, it should tell us that we need wood. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We want it to be a little bit better than that. We want to do an append again here. And what we do is resource resources, let's say needed, do that, then we'll do that, then we'll do that. Okay, we'll tidy that up in a second. We'll do that, and let's see what happens, shall we? Right. So we don't have wood. There you go. Resources needed. Wood. Now it isn't taken off. You'll notice it's not taken off the comma in that. So we just need to sort that out and find out where that Y is coming from. Right, so we've not done anything there. Okay, so we need to check our functions and see if we've got some strange stuff going on. Have I typed some weird nonsense? Apparently not. So we need to check this data table to find out if there's something weird about the wood. This Y thing. Oh, it's dry wood. So what it's doing is it's chopping off. It shouldn't. Unreal Engine does this a weird way, right? So it looks like we should be doing a right chop too, right? So that's in our interact. Or is it? No, it shouldn't be. It should be here. Right, so I think this should be a left chop too. Left chop. Right, there's other ways of doing this. Right, you can do, well, under normal circumstances, you would do like a left, and then you'd basically say the length of it minus 2, etc, etc, but as I said, this Unreal Engine has its little quirks. Okay. There we go. And there we go. Now we need to do one more test, and we'll do it in a second. But I'm going to go and grab myself a cigarette. If you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe, and check out the description for links to the Groenland Discord server, which you're welcome to join. Join us on there, and my personal one, which you're also welcome to join on, and my Patreon, where you can support the channel, plus my previous game on Steam, which is a tower defense game, and it's only $1. So check those out. I'll be back in a second. Don't go anywhere.
original idea was that all of these realms were to help one another in times of crisis. But in actuality, what you had was the perfect recipe for civil war, which became an endemic part of Roman life from that period onwards. Now, with any type of power struggle, there's always going to be one that is going to slowly claw their way to the top. And in this situation, a man by the name of Constantine, who will later be known to historians as Constantine the Great, and this is a man that probably deserves an entire podcast unto himself, but he came to power. He fought against his rivals. In the year 312, on October 28th, he fought a battle called the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, which he was able to win, but the interesting aspect of this battle was that just prior to this battle, he had a vision where he saw the Christian symbol, the chai in the row, looks kind of like a P with an X through it. This presented itself to him, and he was told by a voice, in hoc signo vinces, which I'm probably murdering this Latin, but it means, in this sign he will conquer. And so he told all of his soldiers to paint that symbol on their shields, and even though they were outnumbered, they marched into battle and they won. And of course, this sets into motion a series of events which will cause another profound shift in the Roman Empire as Christianity slowly becomes into alignment. And indeed, in the year 313, Constantine passes the Edict of Milan, which grants Christianity official recognition. In 321, Sunday is identified as the official rest day. And between May 12th and June 19th of 325, the Council of Nicaea was held to establish a formal creed for all Christians to believe in. But Constantine also does something which causes yet another profound shift. He moves the capital. He establishes the city of Constantinople in the year 330. And he establishes the city on an area called the Hellespont, which is an area of land that sticks out into, well, as far as it's Rome, it's extremely defensive territory. It's on the edge of Europe and Asia. And it becomes not only the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, but it becomes a city that will preserve knowledge and Western civilization for the next 1,000 years. And so the Roman Empire becomes fragmented. You have two capitals. And by the way, going back to Rome, no longer was really a capital. Milan became much more important. Eventually, Ravenna took that role. Whereas Rome became, as Christopher Kelly wrote in his book, The End of Empire, a crumbling mausoleum. It became a memorial of temples and triumphant arches and a relic of former glory. And this divided late Roman Empire was no longer truly expanding. It was surrounded by enemies. The Persian Empire, which kind of waxed and waned in power, had started assuming its dominance in the Middle East. And instead of leading
Okay, guys, we are back. So, we want to do a test on this, right? To make sure it's working properly. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this shield, and I'm going to change its item type to fuel, right? Now, this obviously doesn't make any sense, but it allows us to test, okay? Because at the moment we've only got one type of fuel, which is wood, right? So, and what we're testing is that it tells us the two of them, and it's only telling us one. Okay, now I know why that is. It's because I've made a slight error in my function. Okay, and the slight error is that we need to add these together. Now, I'm not sure if this is a plus. No. It's an append, right? Normally, in C++ or most other languages, some of them allow you to plus it, some of them don't, some it's concatenate. There's various different things that this is normally called, but in blueprints it's basically append. Now what we could do is actually do that, delete that, move, basically do that, then move this one to here, and then put that one there. Okay. So we're basically building up our string with the different item types or item names. Now what it might be actually useful to do is have another version of this. So there we go, we've got dry wood shield, right? Which is exactly the result that we wanted, okay? But, big but, first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our interactable items, and we're going to change this shield back to clothing for now. We're going to save that. Right now, what we might want to actually do here is create another function very, very similar to the one that we've already got, and I'll explain it in a second. Under certain circumstances, and for like a full crafting system, if we implement any kind of crafting system here, which I think we're going to do, it's not going to be like a full Minecraft crafting system, but it's going to be a basic crafting system where you can like make stuff, right? Well, in this case, what we actually might need is a very similar function to this. So I'm going to duplicate this, but it's going to be item types, not item names, right? Now, what I'm going to actually do here is I'm going to change this to be a little more generic. I'm going to say required string out, okay? Because it might relate to items, item names, and it might be item types. Okay, so now basically what we do is we don't need this because we don't need the individual names, right? And we don't need that. All we actually need to do is delete that again. Okay. And do toString, enum string, and that's going to give us the friendly name, the English or whatever language that you want there. And then this is going to plug in here. Right? There we go. And in fact, we can just go straight to there and remove these two conversions. We can tidy it up by doing that. We can tidy up even more by dragging that over there. And there we go. Okay. Save that. We can do that. We can do that. Tidy everything up. Save that. Go back to our interact. Now, if we didn't want the actual item list, we can say required. Oops, wait a minute. We'll say return item types. Okay, and then plug this into here. Okay. And now this should say fuel. It doesn't matter how many fuels there are. There we go. Okay. Right. And now we can check that it's working fine. We can take that and we get our interact. Okay. If we go into our inventory and we drop this and come back, we get resources needed, fuel. Okay. Excellent. And now, probably, item type needed is more relevant. Now, as you can see, we've still built this. So if we need to run this in somewhere else, we can do that. Right? But we've got a couple of nice functions that we can use. Okay. Any questions out there? Just having a sip of my coffee if you don't mind. I'm going to check. Right. So that is exactly what we want. Everything's going rather nicely. Now, do we want to amalgamate these? Not sure. It's okay the way it is. It is definitely okay the way it is. Right, okay. Right, so the next thing we're going to check is our little guys doing their thing, right? This guy's going to chop away at some choppy things, and our other guy is going to fish. So he's chopping, that's good. Choppity chop. This guy's going to spear away. Okay. He should be actually looking like he's trying to spear something. Right, now I know my colleague Kent has mucked about with this a bit. This one's working okay. This guy's chopping away at things, right? This guy, not so much. Hi, Storm Run Gaming, how you doing, bud? Right, let's have a look at our NPC, shall we? NPC, right, spearfishing dude. Spearfishing loop montage. Right, this is the wrong montage. You'll notice that this guy Alright, I'm gonna have to speak to my cat. How's your day going? It's going well so far. We've got, if you remember last night, I kind of brushed over the fact that you needed resources, and a message to say so, right, when we went up to the fire or anything else. So now what I've done is I have added there's no reason why you can't. And there's no reason it needs to be an overlay. I don't know if you realise, but there is an overlay item in a widget, right? So basically now, anything that requires a resource, it tells you what resource it needs, okay? So it says fuel, right? Now, if we pick up this, which is fuel, right, it allows us to light it, okay? And you can see our temperature, it is working fine. Well, Storm Run, you can see on the left hand side of my screen, I have transparent, in inverted commas, overlays, right, for the different HUD items like hunger, health, thirst, and the temperature. You'll notice those are transparent, plus the clock, right? I don't know if that's what you mean by overlays, but that's what they are, in effect. But to bring it up with the left, how do you make a character holding a fire torch? Right, okay. How do you make someone holding a fire torch? Well, that's easy. Let's make this dude hold a fire torch. Yeah, you can do that easy enough. You just basically add it to viewport. When you're holding the button down, that starts it. Right? And then basically either remove it for parent or collapse it when you let go of the button. Simple as. That's it. Simple as that. Right, okay, so screen apple. How do you make a character hold a torch? Simple enough. We can go into this guy here. Well, let's do it in another slight. Let's use something else, right? Okay, let's not. Let's just get this guy, right? Skeletal mesh, SK Viking, right? Browse to him, open him up. That's him there, right? So we know that he's using something in his right hand, I believe, right? So if we just go to the skeleton, right, you can see there that he's got something. And what that something is a tool socket, right? So say for example we wanted him to hold a torch here. Well, we just go to the same place on the left hand side, right? So that's ring 1 left, right? We right click, right? We add a socket and we say torch. Okay, probably better calling it like torch socket or something, but either way it doesn't really matter. Now, simply enough, we can attach anything we want here, right? Now, in the character itself, you can do this just by putting. You can do this a couple of ways, right? You can attach it in the first place and then just hide it, or if they hit a button to pick up a torch, then you can attach it, right? So that's what we're going to do. So fundamentally all I need to do is go to our NPC, right? Go to it's here, and this is the NPC master, right? Now this is the one that attaches the tool to his other hand, right? Okay, so what we can do is just do the exact same thing. We can copy that, right? We can paste it, I'll zoom in a minute so you can see this, right? So we're setting static mesh. Right, now we're not going to use our tool mesh this time, right? We're going to use a new mesh. Right, so I'm just going to type torch and see if we've got a torch, which I think we have. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay. And this is our mesh, right? Well, actually, we're going to get we're actually needing to get this. And we could probably say that. We'll change this from tool to torch. And basically we're going to plug that in. I never use grid snapping. Right, so we need the target here. And I believe it's this. Right, so we're going to do that. And we're going to get the static mesh. I hope. Okay, maybe we're not. Attach component to component, so we need a component. So because this is right, okay. So it is the tool component, right? Right, that's a bit crappy. We'll try this anyway. Right, that's not going to work. Right. It might. No, it's not. Right, it's not going to work, but we'll do this anyway as a... We'll do that for now. We'll fix it if we need to. Right, so we're going to do this new tool, this new mesh thing, right? And we're attaching it to the torch socket and we're keeping it relative, so basically it's going to stick to his hand, right? And there you can see he's actually got a torch. It's in the wrong socket, right? But you can see that, actually no, it's not, look. It's in his left hand. Right, but you get the point. So the only difference there is I added a component for the tool. You would add a component for the torch and then basically say torch, apply to that, okay? And that would be it. So set static mesh. You can always set your static mesh in here by setting a torch mesh, right? And then just set it in here, and then you can drag this in and plug it into here. So basically this is what I've done for the tool, right? So there's a tool component right under the mesh, and we just basically say in the tool component make that the static mesh, which is this mesh here, which is the axe in this case, and then basically you just tell it the target is the tool, the parent is the mesh, and that's it. And keep relative if you want to make it like that, and that's it. So hopefully That's how you do it. As I said, I don't want to mess about with this too much. Right, but all I needed to do here was make this a torch component under here, and then instead of tool it would be torch, and that would work just fine. In fact, let's just do that, right? Add component, static mesh, just say torch, right? And then basically we just drag that in there. Right, that goes in there. That goes in there. And that's it. So he should be holding an axe in one hand and a torch in the other when he's walking. It's different when he actually does his job, but you can see now that he's got a torch in the left hand and an axe in the right. You can see it quite clearly. Right, he's obviously still doing it with the axe. Now obviously what you would do was basically hide, if he was doing a job you would hide the torch, right? So you could just set that, you could just basically say torch, grab that, and then just put hidden in game, set hidden in game, and basically that would be, you know, hiding it. The other thing you can do is manually just attach it like this, and then just set hidden in game, true and false as you require it to be shown or not, right? That's another way of doing it. Normally, right, with NPCs, what you'll find is they will have lots of weapons attached to their hand. And basically what you do is either you just remove them or hide them and just leave the one that you want. Right? So say you've got a dagger, a sword, or a shield. Right? You would basically, at the start of the, when it's created, you would say, you know, pick a random whatever it is he's holding. So let's say it says shield, right? So what you would do is just say, okay, if it's shield, hide, sword, and dagger. If it's dagger, hide, shield, and sword. If it's sword, hide, shield, and dagger. Right? And that's it. That's a very commonly used way of doing it, right? Or you can basically do what I just did there and just say basically if it's a dagger, attach a dagger, right? Make the static mesh a dagger and attach it, right? Two different ways of doing it. Both equally work. It's up to you, right? You're snapping to grids here, right? So it depends on and off, right? You've got off, on, and then you've got the number of units. So, yeah. So where are we now? Right, as far as these animations go, I'm going to need to talk to my colleague about it to find out where these animations need to go, and it needs tidied up because all of these things now are using a different skeleton, right? These should all now be using the SK mannequin skeleton. Okay. So basically these all need reset up. So I'm not even sure if this, yeah, look, So I can't even reset this. So what I think is that if this was set up properly, right, this directory won't change if I select my guy that is chopping. Okay? Right, so in theory, this animation blueprint has changed. This animation blueprint is now using a different skeleton. And yeah, it's using S mannequin. Okay. So that's kind of bollocks. He's actually using yeah. So this is okay for walk run, but he's using a montage for the actual thing, the actual job. So this has changed and I need to speak to Kent about this. Right. Right. Anything you guys want to question about? I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next. I am reticent to change these animations. And this, well, okay, I'll leave that, but this job animations is definitely not right. Right, these all need redone. So whatever's going on with this dude chopping wood, he is not using that animation, right? So I'm expecting this to change. Yeah, see that? NPC chopping wood montage. And you'll notice there isn't an NPC bloody blah. We could retarget to S mannequin, retarget, right? And what we need to do is rename this to NPC and then do this one to NPC Okay, this one is, this animation seems to just survive everything. It's been sitting there forever, right, and doesn't seem to ever be deleted. I think everybody's, well, both of us are afraid to delete it for some reason, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put these in here. Okay, now in our NPC fishing, we're going to change this to our NPC fishing loop montage. For some reason, I've called it NPC. Never mind. Right, so now, if we save all, our super duper guys should do our chopping and our, so he should start chopping in a minute. Right, and once this guy gets over here with his spear, he should start doing a speedy fishy type action. Okay, so let's watch him, and there he goes. So there we go. So that's kind of fixed. Okay, but it does need tidied up a bit. Right. Cool. Now, one of the next things we need to do, I wonder actually. Right, so this seems to be working again. Oof! Right. Okay. So that's adding an impulse, right? That's what's called adding an impulse. So I think we need to stop that. Okay. I think we need to not add an impulse. Okay. So let's try that again, and let's not try to knock a deer into next week. Okay, cool. So, yeah, right. This is a good one to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our wildlife. And now we've got the kill cam, the arrow kill cam, right? We don't actually want the animals to do what they're doing right now, okay? What we want is basically is shot is the same as is dead, right? So what we want to do is not this, okay? what we actually just want to do is this thing here. Set status direct, okay? So let's just move this to here, right? And I believe this might not still work, right? We might actually need to set it to dead or do it in a slightly different way. But we basically want our animals, basically if they get hit with an arrow they die, right? That's kind of the point. Right, so that set status isn't right. Okay. If they get hit with an arrow, they die. Okay. So we're saying has been shot here. Okay. So what we're doing, it's actually in the controller. Right, it's in here. We've got this countdown timer. We've got these countdown timer things that basically say you wait X amount of time before you die. Right? If I can find it. Now, if it's not in there, it must be in our base wildlife. Yeah, here it's here, right? Right, we've got countdown. Okay. So basically, we don't want to do this. Okay? We don't want to do the countdown. Right? We basically want to just say kill animal. So I'm going to duplicate that, right? And I'm going to test it. Right? I'm just going to basically do that. Right? Because we don't want a countdown. We don't want it to go away. We don't want it to do anything other than basically fall down dead. Okay? And there we go. And it does work very well. Right? It's a beautiful thing. You've got to admit, guys, that looks bloody good. But I tell you what, there's something going on with the perception thing. Right, there's something going on with the perception thing, right? Because it's just not right. Right, now that guys is looking blimmin' good. I am pretty darn happy with that. Oh well. Right. So, not perfect, but it's working pretty good. We should be attaching at location, right? We shouldn't be attaching at a socket. We should be just attaching at a location on the animal, the arrow that is. At the moment, the reason that I was attaching to a socket was that this is something we worked on later, right? But if you look at the animals, right? If we look at an animal and we look at the mesh and then the skeleton, right? So if we look at this, right? And then we look at the skeleton, right? We could actually check what things it is that you've hit and what are the things that would kill it, right? So what I'm saying by that is, let's say spine, right? You hit it there on the spine, it dies. If you hit it on the neck, it dies. Neck 1, it dies. There, anywhere in the head, it dies. Right? But, let's say you hit it. Right, that would still hit. Maybe if you hit it here, it doesn't die. Right? And if you hit it down here, it doesn't die. So you could say anything hand and finger, it doesn't die. Okay? So that would kill it, that would kill it, that would kill it, but that wouldn't kill it, okay? So anything that says foot, hand, or finger doesn't kill it. You could also say tail, anything, so it would be hand, finger, foot, tail. Okay, so if you could get where the socket you hit, because that's what I do at the moment, I'll show you in a second. If I can remember where to put it. Right, this is it here. Where do I attach it? Alright. Where do I attach and detach? I've got no idea where I attach and detach. what I do is something slightly different. Right, if we go to BP Wildlife, I believe, maybe. No, I don't do it there either. That's weird. Let's have a look here. Is this it? I think this is it here. Yeah, attach arrow. Well, this is attach actor, right? So this is the arrow, okay? So you can see we hit with the arrow and we attach to a socket. Well, we don't actually want to attach it to a socket. We want to attach it to the impact point or location, right? That's where we want to do it. Now, the interesting thing is whether or not this is relative or not. Okay? If the location is a relative location, it doesn't appear to be. Okay? Impact point, is that a relative? Now it seems to be the impact point. So we're going to call it there for this afternoon. I'm going to have a quick look at this. But in the meantime, guys, if you've enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. Thanks again, Stormrun Gaming, La Casa del Gaming, Tarkov Mike. It's great to see you all here again. I do appreciate Screen Apple as well, and the new guys. I'll be back at 8 PM as usual. We'll be doing some more. And for anybody new, check out the description for the Groenland Discord server, La Casa. I was hoping to see you joining either of the Discord servers. So there's a link to the Groenland Discord server, a link to my personal Discord server, a link to my Patreon where you can support the channel, and also to my previous game on Steam. So I hope to see you in one of the Discord channels at least, and maybe later at 8 PM tonight. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. I shall see you guys at 8 PM. Bye bye for now.